check this out.
You mentioned early on that the China balloon might have been giving limited additive capabilities. I assume you're meaning onto their satellite surveillance. Can you specify what exactly it's getting from a balloon that they're not getting from orbiting satellites that go over us like dozens of
Nice.
With the caveat that we haven't fully recovered everything, though we have recovered some things from the bottom of the Atlantic, and we're analyzing that. But with that caveat that we don't know exactly what this balloon was surveilling or what its capabilities were. So just in general, and that's an important caveat that I'd like you to remember. When you are at a lower altitude than space, you could perhaps get a better fidelity of imagery, for instance.
Okay.
Of things on the ground. When you are not moving at the speed of a satellite, and therefore, only getting seconds over a site, when you can maneuver left, right, slow down, speed up, like this thing could, then you can loiter. If you can loiter, you can soak in a little bit more. You can spend more time over a sensitive site.
some of their satellites are in geostationary orbit. I mean, they're just sitting there gathering signals intelligence, right? So what is the benefit? I mean, is it just to see what kind of fidelity?
We're going to learn more. I'd rather not go into any more detail than that right now. We're going to learn more. And frankly, I think that's a terrific question you should be asking Beijing.
And one last one. You said that the other objects shot down were not able to transmit, or were not transmitting signals, that they did not have any propulsion. Did the China balloon, did that have any, was it emitting signals back?
Good question.
I'm not going to go into more detail about the capabilities of that. We are going to be studying it and analyzing it. There is no question in our minds that that system was designed to surveil, that was an intelligence asset. I'll leave it there.
Has there been any outreach from anywhere in the administration to the kinds of companies that produce weather balloons or other craft that would fit these descriptions that might be from the commercial or corporate world to say, is this yours, or any kind of outreach? Or have you been hearing from anyone who might say, we have ours, they're in this area? Is any of that going on now?
Spicy meat. Yeah, boy.
I don't know of any conversations right now, Kelly, but one of the reasons why the president directed Mr. Sullivan to put together an interagency effort is to take a long look at that and try to learn a little bit better about who is up at that altitude doing what for completely legitimate purposes. I think we all recognize we need to probably have a better sight picture on that, and that's why the president wants this interagency effort to take a look.
And what kind of intelligence might be happening in terms of the diplomacy that's going on or whatever, if these are state-owned objects?
I'm not sure I understand what you mean.
Is there a network of conversations that might be happening where someone might be able to say, based on this octagonal description, that, hey, that sounds like the so-and-so? I mean, is there some conversations that are happening that might be able to give us some descriptions?
I'm not looking for judgment, just a yes or no.
I mean, the short answer to your question is yes, and I talked about that in my opening statement. The president also directed Secretary Blinken, Secretary Austin, Director Haynes to have these kinds of conversations with our allies and partners around the world, to share with them what we're learning, but also to get their perspectives.
The Chinese were quick to say it's ours, but it was for commercial purposes.
Yeah, again, we're going to have those kinds of conversations with our allies and partners to see what kind of experiences that they have had, what we can learn from them, what perhaps they can learn from us.
And are we still with object, or can we call them balloons?
Still with object.
Thank you very much, Karine, and thank you, Admiral. By the way, the use of elucidating, I think, justifies my earlier description of your loquacity. Two questions on the subject at hand. Obviously, President Putin has a vested interest in the United States Congress voting to deprive Ukraine of additional support and assistance. Do you discern any efforts by the Kremlin to exploit, aggravate, or otherwise shape the discord that we're seeing in our political system right now.
Good question. You are a good question.
Boy, I am actually really glad that you asked that, James. Bear with me. The short answer to your question is, do we see any tangible, demonstrable efforts by Putin to capitalize on this? I can't say that we do. I've seen no indication that he's done something or is working inside the propaganda machine of his to exploit this. It wouldn't be unlike him to do that, but the answer to your question is I haven't seen any proof of that. That said, and this is the important point that I think your question raises, is that by denying support for Ukraine, by being willing to just walk away from helping them defend themselves, you're handing Mr. Putin a win, a victory. Not only a propaganda win, because his whole narrative has been this is the West versus Russia, it's NATO versus Russia, we didn't start this war, they forced us into it, all of it a lie. And if we just walk away from Ukraine, we basically confirm his lie. We basically say to him, yeah, you know what, you're right, Putin, you were the wronged, you were the victim here. And we hand him that kind of an advantage. It's egregious, and it absolutely plays right in to his false narrative of how this war started.
That's a damn lie.
The other question is this. You, Jake Sullivan, President Biden, Ms. Jean-Pierre, all those who speak for this administration on this subject matter have, over the last several weeks, continued without deviation to project confidence that this renewed funding is going to come from this Congress. And you have issued those projections of confidence as the discernible support for Ukraine's funding has eroded almost day by day. And we're now in a position where not even a stopgap measure would include that funding. So on that call with the allies today and in government-to-government interactions with the allies, don't you risk sullying the reputation of the United States and of these individual leaders, including the president, for providing frank and candid advice and counsel when you're projecting confidence as this sort of funding ship is sinking steadily?
Thank you. So I'd push back on your notion that there's a discernible erosion. There hasn't been. I've been answering questions up here now for almost an hour, telling you that we're confident in the conversations we're having with leadership in the House that support for Ukraine will continue, that the vast majority of Republicans in the House support this, not to mention Republicans in the Senate and, of course, all Democrats. So there's no discernible erosion. We have a small number of very vocal, extreme Republicans in the House that are pushing back on this, but they don't represent their caucus and they don't represent their leadership. And what would erode confidence in the United States would be for us to do Putin's bidding.